Until the end of 2006, I was Deputy Controller of Public Accounts for the state of Texas, in which I'd been that position for 16 years. The Controller is a statewide elected official, and so I was the Chief Deputy, so I managed the agency, and the agency is responsible for all tax collection. It's responsible for operation of the Treasury, the way things are paid. It's the state's accountant and chief fiscal officer, and it does the revenue forecast for the state. I think the Methodist and Texas Impact, which is another faith-based group, had been talking about the effect of the Affordable Care Act in Texas and the opportunity Texas might or might not have under it. And they were pretty convinced that there wasn't really a good official or unofficial source of information. Some work had been done by Drs. Klein and Murdoch at Rice on the populations that would be affected, but not on the finances. And I think an important point here that made the study more effective, because I've done it kind of both ways, is it wasn't an advocacy piece. Methodists seriously wanted to know the answer, and I think they were willing to accept what that answer was as long as we followed a good methodology. And yes, I was amazed because, you know, I'm not a Health and Human Services person, I'm a state finances person, and obviously that has a financial element, but the opportunity that we found was very eye-opening. I think a lot of people view the Affordable Care Act and Obamacare, whatever you want to call it, through a political lens, and they either like it or hate it based on where their politics are. And we recognize that that would be controversial going in, but our analysis and Methodist interest has nothing to do with politics. This is the law. It has been adjudicated to the Supreme Court of the United States, and this is what's going to happen. And so the issue is no longer is this the best federal policy or not the best federal policy, at least it's not our issue. The issue is how will this impact Texas depending on what this legislature decides, and that's what we were looking at. And we looked at it at the first level as a business decision that the state has to make, and then at the second level of the human impact of it, if we can insure 1 million people that are not being insured right now. My clients here in this report were responsible for starting this debate in a serious way. And I don't know what the legislature is going to decide, but they're at least having the debate now, and I think that's important because, you know, this is $100 billion with a B dollars that the state could receive over the next 10 years from the federal government. This is money that has come from taxes that are going to be raised. It's not deficit. It's not going to go away. And, you know, turning your back on $100 billion for whatever the reason is not a step you should take just on a whim. There have been examinations in other states, and I think one of the things that's happened is some of the governors, like Governor Christie in New Jersey, have, you know, who are hard-headed businessmen, tough, you know, lawyers. They've said, well, you know, we need to figure out what this is going to do, so at the very least we can say why we're opposed to it other than we just don't like it. And when they run the numbers, they say, can't afford to walk away from the deal. And I think that's why you're seeing a lot of them change is, you know, there's a time to pound the table and then there's a time to pound the asphalt and get stuff done, and I think that's what the governors are doing, and I think that's why a lot of them are changing their mind, or, you know, several of them are changing their mind.